Now it gives me a great pleasure to invite Dr. Lyndon to present us his note on entrepreneurship education for the 21st century.
Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you can all hear me. If there are any problems, do let me know. I was very flattered about what your Vice Chancellor had to say. Let me say this. As far as I'm concerned, I feel a very humble person. And my definition of an expert, which I was called, is just a very ordinary sort of chap a long way from home. So I'm having to travel further and further. Just let me say a word or two about qualifications. If you look at my business card, you will see no qualifications whatsoever. Over the years, I have collected quite enough. But we live in a world where only change is permanent. The only time you're going to get stability is in death. So you're all involved in this race between mental obsolescence and retirement. My attitude is very simple. What relevance has a degree, which I took, albeit in the late 1940s, with today's world? It died years ago. And equally, when you get your master's, when you get your MBA, when you first get your MBA, it needs my best advertisement. Because of the pace of change, if you don't keep on topping up, 5 years later it means marginally below average. So you get excellent degrees from the university, but you must continue with professional development. Thank you. Thank you very much. There's also a reference made by the Vice Chancellor earlier on to the Ministry of Defence when we were talking. The first time I visited your country, believe it or not, was in 1968, and I'd been asked by the British government, Ministry of Defence, to come over to this part of the world because there's a British military presence here in Singapore. Would I help run training programs so that those people, when they have finished in the military, would make a smooth transition to the UK? And I think I have been back to your country every year since 1968. When I started, I was the same colour, my hair was the same colour as yours. Can I focus on the situation which is facing us today in your country and throughout the world? And I want to deal with two particular issues. One is unemployment and the other is robots. I say we live in a world where only change is permanent. The only time you're going to get stability is when you die. And companies should be learning from this. Let me just illustrate it by one example. If you look at what were the top biggest 100 companies in the UK in the year 1900, and you then look at the top list of 100 companies in the UK in the year 2000, only 10 out of that original 100 had survived. This is the pace of change in which you live today. There are huge corporations in the US and elsewhere. In my country, there was a very big corporation called ICI, we had a big factory here in your country, disappeared. If you look at Eastman Kodak, the great film company, it's disappeared. You had Woolworths, and Woolworths at one juncture was producing one new shop every 18 years. It's disappeared. We've all got to adjust to change, and if you do not adjust to change, the same fate is going to fall before you. So, this is the backdrop. The need for change against which we've got to do things. Secondly, we're facing the issue of worldwide unemployment. Let me just bore you with a few statistics. At the moment, it's believed that there are 7 billion people on this earth. It's believed in the year 2050, that figure will have risen to at least 10 billion and possibly more. Of that 7 billion people, you take out the people who are under the age of 15, you would expect them to do that. You then look at the number of people who are seeking work, and there are 3 billion key workers who want a formal job. They want to work for at least 30 to 40 hours per week. Only 1.2 billion have a full-time job, as you and I understand a full-time job. You've got something like 1.8 billion people who don't have full-time jobs, and the majority of those people are living on $2 American per day or less. So, as a result, we've got major problems in the world today where unemployment is concerned. You, in your country, and neighbouring Singapore, have done an outstandingly good job where the issue of employment is involved. You, I suspect your figure, I looked it up, and I think it's around 3%. In Singapore, it's 1.something%. Those are remarkably good figures, and it's a great tribute to your two countries. Now, whether the rest of us are going to learn lessons from you, whether you're going to be able to maintain that, these are questions to which we don't have answers. And one of the problems which does face us, when unemployment goes up, the government has less revenue, and therefore there is less money available to support those people who are unemployed. In many countries, it's a lack of hiring, not layoffs, which is causing people to be unemployed. May I give you a very specific illustration? I spend a lot of time travelling outside the UK, and the other week I was in South Africa. In South Africa last year, they created 220,000 new jobs. That seemed very good. But the number of youngsters entering the labour force was 650,000. So you had a big deficit in the number of jobs which were created against the number of people who were entering the labour market. But that's not peculiar to any one country today. I merely use it as an example because I was there very recently. And the result of that last year, the unemployment peak in South Africa increased from 36.4% to 37.1%. And that is because the jobs are simply not available. According to the ILO, there are 75 million youth worldwide out of work. And in advanced economies, about 35% of young people have been out of work for 6 months or longer. That's particularly disturbing where education and training is concerned. One outcome of higher youth unemployment is boredom. And that gets followed in many countries by drinking, drug taking, and death to pay for the drink and the drugs. The other day, the person who will be joining me here tomorrow, Dr. Penny Hudd, Giles knows her very well. Dr. Hudd was down in Singapore, in South Africa at the same time as myself, and she was attacked in the street when they attempted to steal her necklace. That was in Cape Town, which is a very pleasant area compared to, say, Johannesburg in that country. This is the sort of world into which a big part of the world is moving. So far, I repeat, you have done such a good job, and we must maintain it. In many countries, 2 factors in particular are creating this unemployment amongst the young people. One, people are living longer and we're working longer. I'm an example of that. The same person, let me give you a simple example. In 1965, if you were a head teacher, male or female, in a British school, you retired at 65 years of age. In 1965, your life expectancy was 18 months. Today, if you retire as a teacher at 65, your life expectancy now is 80. We're all living longer. In the UK, the percentage of people over the age of 65 is going to rise by 16 to 26% in the next 40 years. And so that is replicated in so many different countries. Now, a major reason for people living longer is developments in the medical profession. This is something about which your university knows a great deal. For example, computer-aided diagnosis today search for patterns in your X-rays and identify things such as cancer and other illnesses much more effectively and cheaply than radiologists. Computers are being put into people's brains and bodies to keep them more healthy. Today, most older workers enjoy far better health than their parents did at a similar age. At the moment, age-related memory loss and Alzheimer's still create problems, but given the manner in which science is developing, scientists pushing back the boundaries, such problems are going to become less prevalent. So we've got more people living longer. Arising from this, health hubs are emerging, designed to cater to these aging people. Nanomedics will devise subatronic nanoscale healthcare service devices, and body insects, including cargo ships that seek out cancerous cells and will be put into your bloodstream, all designed to make us live longer. Concurrent with people living longer, many people are working longer. As regards age, working longer, the 2008 economic downturn and the resultant depression worldwide resulted in many suffering a loss in their retirement savings. At the same time, a lot of employers found themselves having to end what we call final salary schemes. And those have been ended terminated today in all the large UK companies. Simultaneously, many people want to go working after retirement, but not necessarily in full-time employment. So we are seeing taper-off schemes introduced. When you reach a certain age, no longer is that necessary to be your last day of work. You can ask to work 4 days a week, you can ask to work 3 days a week, and you can gradually taper off instead of coming to a full stop. Others want to do less demanding work. So the employers are having to organise things to cater to those workers. At the lower end of the age spectrum, I regret to say, in most countries, youth unemployment is going to take on new dimensions. We've already got more being produced by fewer workers. And as older people work longer, there are fewer job vacancies, so there's an increase in youth unemployment. Further, in recessions, the firm's reaction is to close new vacancies. According to reports published earlier this year by the International Labour Organization, the ILO, youth unemployment is reaching a crisis of unprecedented levels. Now, if jobs are to be created, this is not going to be done by the work of government. It has got to be done by the entrepreneurs. They're the ones who create jobs. Frequently the question is posed, what does it take to be an entrepreneur? And the cynical response is that an entrepreneur is a person who conceives or receives ideas and turns them into business realities. Often they use OPP, other people's brains, or OPMs, other people's money, in order to develop those job opportunities. But let's ask, what does it take to become an entrepreneur? Is it nature or nurture, or a combination of the two? Part of the true entrepreneur, it's their DNA. It's an ability to tolerate tough times and to be the perpetual optimist. You could express very simply and say, you've got what it takes. And they do have what it takes. So what do I mean by that? They need, when to be an entrepreneur, you need to be very focused. What am I trying to achieve? What are my goals? And can I remind you this? Once you have lost your way, it doesn't matter which road you take. So you cannot afford to lose your way. You've got to be very, very clear what are your objectives and what you are seeking to achieve. And you've got to be able to plan each step of the journey. You need enthusiasm. If things don't work out the first time, they need to ascertain why and review the steps to be taken. It's also to have a good understanding of money. The biggest cause of failure in my country amongst entrepreneurs is being too successful. They overtrade. It may seem a contradiction in terms, but let me explain. Somebody may be an electrician or a plumber, and they get a very good reputation. They are first-class plumber, first-class electrician. The man decides, well, why should I work for somebody else? Why don't I set up my own business? And that person does. And he gets a lot of trade, he's got this good reputation, and he takes on another employee. And the business continues to grow, so he takes on a third, he takes on a fourth, and so on. And then he might go and sign a contract for a very big job. And because of overtrading, he goes bankrupt. Because what happens is the main contractor doesn't pay the subcontractor, who doesn't pay the man, the electrician who's now got half a dozen people working for him. And on Friday, on payday, he can't get the money because the money isn't in the bank to pay his people, because the main contractor hasn't yet paid. And they go bankrupt because they've been too successful. It's almost paradoxical. But it's overtrading which is the biggest cause of small businesses in my country today. I suspect that there in many other countries. So you've got to have a good knowledge of simple finance to run your business successfully. Another one, you've got to help people doing what you and I are a blinding glimpse of the obvious. But people will make mistakes, and we've got to help them understand what the critical path is. Somebody comes along and say you've decided you're going to have your bathroom retiled and redecorated. Somebody takes on the job, and you're going to be using a plumber, you're going to be using an electrician, and so forth. And they don't think through the sequence of how the jobs have to be done. So we finish up with ridiculous situations developing that one man comes in one day, puts down all the tiles the walls, and the next day the plumber arrives. Sorry, the electrician arrives to put in all the fittings. So if you haven't thought through the sequence, if you haven't done your critical path, in which order we have to take each job, it sounds very simple, but when people are under pressure, looking hard, they forget these simple things. So we've got to get them to learn things like critical path analysis, how to look after your finance. These are the things which are very important to the small entrepreneur. Many would argue that training and assistance can be provided and help people become entrepreneurs. And this can take a very wide range of forms. For example, in some African economies, women are playing a very important role. And witness how the International Labour Organization got together with the African Development Bank, and they're working to support women in becoming entrepreneurs in many different parts of Africa today. I can speak with some knowledge of this because I work quite a lot in Africa. It's interesting to see the support the International Labour Organization is providing to women, making them much more entrepreneurial. I'm sometimes very ashamed of my sex, and I think some of the women work a lot more hard and effectively than we males. In the case of the Association of Business Executives, we've got students from over 100 different countries on our programs. Entrepreneurship is very important. The Quality Assurance Agency in the UK, and that's the body which controls all public sector universities in our country, they've recently published a document to reflect current thinking on enterprise and entrepreneurship. And it's intended to illuminate contemporary best practice in the development of these important areas. So, my government at long last are now taking a really serious interest in this problem. One definition of enterprise education process of equipping students with an enhanced capacity to generate ideas and skills to make them happen. Entrepreneurship education aims to equip the students with the additional knowledge, attributes, and capabilities required to apply abilities in the context of setting up a new venture or business. All of this is prerequisite for entrepreneurial effectiveness. That's the ability to function effectively as an entrepreneur in an entrepreneurial capacity. For example, within a small business or as a portfolio application. Entrepreneurship, enterprise, they are transdisciplinary with a strong connection to issues of employability, innovation, knowledge transfer, commercialization, and intellectual property. There is no single model for enterprise and entrepreneurship educational training. It may determine on management by a central unit. It's embedded in the curriculum by subject specialists. It's led or supported through facilities such as incubators, boot camps, extracurricular clubs and societies. However, you do not measure effectiveness by impact. You measure effectiveness by output, not impact. It doesn't matter how much hard you achieve, if you don't get the results, you've wasted your time and that of other people. Focus on effectiveness, not during but in using. What we need is enterprise awareness, understanding what enterprise means to me. Develop entrepreneurial capability. Develop capability and confidence through guided experience and practice. Entrepreneurial this independent self-direction, progression, individual goals, and then what's going on with me. Learning can be both through curriculum and outside the curriculum. The case for greater emphasis on enterprise and entrepreneurship education is compelling. Driven by the flexibility and adaptability, the labour market requires knowledge with enhanced skills and innovativeness in the global environment. We're also seeing the development of what has been termed DOM entrepreneurship. For example, Facebook has encouraged the growth of these campus startups. It is also the time when a person has freedom from big life decisions, and so it's a help time to try to do your new ventures. When you're young, at your age, this is the real time when you should be looking hard, investing hard, how you can develop entrepreneurship. The best line you will have. Social media also affords the chance to publicise any business effectively for free. For many you have here, this is I repeat, the best time in your life when you're likely to start becoming an effective entrepreneur. Starting and developing small businesses will be helped by the falling of IT combined with the ubiquitous cloud. This will allow even the smallest business to use highly sophisticated analytics to track orders, work with third parties and collect money. However, in many, possibly most countries, financial systems are inadequate as far as small business startups are concerned. What we may need is access to small loans, micro credits. In many cases now we are seeing that in some countries facilities are available. France is a case in point. And many more where finance is concerned with small business. You usually get finance for the small business from the 3 F's. Friends, families and fools. They're the ones who will make the money available. Friends, families and fools. Now, whether the internet will be able to play a more important role, it will be able to coordinate funding for the entrepreneurs and make it easier for people to invest in newer ideas. Almost all jobs are created by startups and small and medium-sized companies. In contrast, the very large companies tend to decrease jobs by acquiring competitors and then cutting duplication. Let me give you a specific example from the UK. Earlier last year, BA, British Airways, took over another company and they immediately shed 1,200 companies belonging to the one they'd just taken over. And this is what happens when the big companies tend to take over. They look for how we can reduce the number of employees. The big companies destroy jobs. It's you, the small companies, who are going to create the jobs. At the same time, we need governments to look at things like tax rates, employment laws, immigration policy, government policy. And these have got to be entrepreneurial friendly. The universities, colleges, and professional bodies have got to be producing people fit for the workplace, promoting entrepreneurship, linking business and finance with research to produce innovation. In the case of producing people fit for the workforce, according to a survey published by the Manpower Group in May last year, 34% of companies paradoxically reported difficulties in finding people to do the jobs. And this skills gap is worsening in countries such as Japan, Germany and France, whilst in America, 3.7 million people in America at the moment, they cannot fill jobs because they haven't got the right people trained to fill those jobs. So, in many countries, the universities and our education provision is failing us. I repeat, that is not going to occur with your university. I think you are much more tuned in to what is needed than is the case in many different parts of the world, the universities elsewhere. Currently, in many countries, it's foreseen that most new jobs will come in the service sector because of the high income elasticity of demand for services. This demand becomes stronger in the context of growing income inequality, which is high income households have a high demand for personal services. And another very important factor in respect of jobs availability is the impact of technological progress, especially computerization, and the demand for different skills and tasks. It's led to a loss of many jobs that involve routine tasks, which can be made become much more cheaply by computers. But at the same time, it's raised the demand for non-routine, low-skilled service jobs, as community services, such as community services. So in short, we're facing a situation where we've got more high-skilled jobs, and we've got more low-skilled jobs, but we're losing out between the two. We've got to start hitting that market. We're also seeing the development of new technology, which is going to have a great impact on the nature of jobs. You're seeing major technology underway, particularly in robotics and artificial intelligence. And the influence of that will be huge. Robotic workers have been, the first robotic worker, recent years, was 60 years ago in General Motors. Today, robotics are gathering momentum, pace. And incidentally, robotics are not new. I might surprise you, the first known example of robotics was actually in the year 10,023 BC, guess which country it was, inevitable China. The first known robotics goes back to that. But robotics as we know today are really quite new. The word comes from word in Yugoslavia, and that's where the name robotics comes from. But the new technologies, robots create, to begin with, robots create more jobs. Let me give you an example. They built a tube station in France, in Paris. To begin with, they built a second line alongside it, but created more jobs. But once they got everything working, they switched over, and you destroy jobs. You don't need people if you've got that overtrained system. And job after job is being destroyed when we're introducing new things. You can see a lot more later of this form. We're going to see in very short time driverless cars. There are all sorts of examples where there will be a lot of benefits from having driverless cars. The drivers don't get drunk. They don't fall asleep. So you're safe. That's great. You have a lot more time at your disposal going to and from work. So you can change the inside of your car and make it into an office. And just getting this morning, you have to concentrate all the time. driverless car, you could use that time for a useful purpose. And there wouldn't be any risk of traffic. Not that I was worried about it driving. Well, I'm mentioning it. But another advantage with a driverless car. In many places, when you have parked your car, you find it difficult to find your parking space. If you've got a driverless car, you just tell the car to go find a car park. These are the sort of developments which is taking place today. Think of the impact on employment with all this type of development. And there are lots of other advantages. You'll pay less car insurance because the chances of an accident are that much lower. And so you can go on with all these advantages. Now, the way in which robotics are developing, let me give you a few examples. Nearby, South Korea. I hope none of you ever finish up energy out in South Korea, but if you do, there is a very likelihood that you'll be controlled by robots and not by gods. And if a prisoner attacks a robot, does it matter? It matters if they attack a human being. And you'll find all sorts of developments of that nature taking place today. If you look at another example, there are British troops and American troops, for example, fighting in Afghanistan. And the troops were going out, and a lot of them were getting killed because the Taliban had left mines behind. So why bother sending out troops? Just finding those. Because if you do, there's a good chance you will be blown up, killed, or badly injured. Why not use robots? This is what they're doing now. You send out the robot, and instead of the soldier pushing something into the ground to try and identify where that mine is, they put down a rod. If the robot gets blown up, does it matter? You've saved somebody's life. So these are the sort of uses which we are making robots, replacing you and I as individuals. And there are a widening range of jobs being done by robots in traditional white-collar occupations. For example, software scan documents in, say, libraries, legal profession, and so on. E-discovery is software which scans documents and looks for important keywords and phrases. So you display lawyers and paralegals. Now, more and more companies today are having difficulty with the speed of advances in technology, and we're not yet getting the full benefits of those new innovations. But this is going to change, and it will change quickly, and we're going to see productivity will increase rapidly, but it will be accompanied by a downside in the size of the working population. And people are going to have to make a choice between unemployment or working differently. Now, we've got people, I believe, from the retail trade. Look at what is happening in the retail trade. I can't speak for your country, but today, and this has developed very fast in the UK, over 20% of all the goods today in the retail trade is no longer done in the shop, it's done online. And when you do that, you need far fewer copper systems. There are a lot of other things. Today, when you go to pay goods, charge, you don't have to queue anymore. You don't have to wait for shopper system to work out how much you spent. You just use a machine and pay accordingly. You're going to see a lot more developments of this nature in the retail trade. They're very big employers of labour. So, robots, they're a valued help to mankind in a variety of ways. Let me give you a few examples. Robots, if you've got problems underground where humans can't get at those problems, very often you've got a robot that can get up, do that necessary underground repair. The human being can't do it. We are making a lot of use of robots today in hospitals. One of the advantages, robots, their hands never tremble at any time. It's good with a doctor, and a very important part of an operation. So they're using today a lot of robots in hospitals. There's going to be a lot more in the years ahead. Something totally different. You can get your lawn today in the UK, America, places like that. I don't know what happens here. In our countries, you don't have to mow your lawn anymore. You can buy a robot. And the robot, you just set it going, and it might make a lot of the gardening for the lawns. It will clean the gutters in your home. So, it will clean the floor in your house, in the hospital, and elsewhere. So everywhere you look today, you are finding robots being used to take over jobs. People were doing. Finally, enough of rising unemployment, people living longer. Let me just spend a minute to looking at the real challenges that we're going to follow, though we haven't got enough already. We're going to see artificial intelligence and thought control development in the years ahead. Artificial intelligence and thought control. A lot of work is being done in this field. But in the case of the latter, a range of projects are already in hand, trying to be organized, our human minds. And they found there's a linkage between brains and two rats on different continents via the internet. This is one of the, if they begin to discover this sort of thing, they're going to grow and build on this. And what will be the implications for you and I? We've got devices which have been pioneered, allowing paralyzed people to control robotic arms just by thought control. You can now control a robotic arm just by thought control. They've got a new thing called body weight is being developed, which measures the ebb and flow of the brain's electrical activity. This can be done by an iPod size tool, which you strap onto a person's arms. A lot of people in this room are going to be involved in this. If they're not already involved, this is what they're going to face in the years ahead. Because we've got technology, it's complicated, but it's very important. You can now use computers to open and close valves and a whole range of things. People don't have to do it anymore. You use valves. There's a sum-up people are concerned that developments in the field of artificial intelligence potentially get extremely difficult and dangerous and create self-destruction could be inflicted on ourselves. Today, from time immemorial, the human being, you and I, have control other animals. Not because we've got bigger muscles or being stronger. We've done it over the past, all of history, because we have got better brains in the animal kingdom. But what is going to happen in the future? All this work is going in now, artificial intelligence. And I leave the question with you. Is this at some juncture in the years ahead put robots in a more powerful position than you and I? Your decision.